Hi, call me D. Not my real name. I'm 22, a girl. Let's start when I met this guy. Let's call him Tim. He's my ex now. We met at work, and he admitted that he noticed me during our orientation. We work in a BPO. A week after training, he approached me to introduce himself. To tell you a bit about myself, I'm the type who doesn't make friends easily. I'm a loner, preferring to be alone for many reasons that I won't enumerate. I'm an introvert who waits for someone to talk to me. And I guess that's what intrigued him about me. So, here it is. I remember we always talked about love life. Then it happened that we were both into hookups, both of us didn't have stable relationships. Then, in the second week of our training, he asked me to make out. At first, I really didn't want to, but I agreed since we both decided it would be a one-time thing, and he even said that after that, we wouldn't acknowledge each other anymore. This happened in November 2022. The next day, I really ignored him and stood firm on our agreement. And luckily, he did the same. But it only lasted a week because he admitted that he couldn't handle it and chatted with me, asking if we could be friends. Which was okay with me. For your information, I'm used to this kind of thing, so I never thought that there would be anything more than friendship between us. Then he started visiting my desk regularly. I was seated at the front while he was at the back. Even during lunch, he always wanted to eat with me. It became our routine until he asked me again to do the thing. And yes, I agreed again. I guess it was the third week of December. By this time, I was already enjoying his company, and we really got along well. For your information, he's really handsome because he's half Japanese. But he's the type that you wouldn't expect to be kind because his aura is very different. Literally a bad boy type. So we became more comfortable with each other, but we were not official, and I had no intention of becoming his girlfriend either. But guys, I wasn't really honest with him from the very first time. Because I faked my identity, I used to tell him that we were rich. I even told him that I was half Israeli and showed him a picture of the man I introduced as my daddy, who turned out to be my sugar daddy. And this is the real plot twist, I slept with a lot of men even at a very young age. Usually aged men around 30 to 60. Yes, name it, I'm a prostitute, but I didn't get paid, I did those things to simply survive. I slept with them to have a place to stay because I ran away from home with nowhere to stay. To make you understand better, I moved from one man to another. Because some of the men I stayed with would only let me stay for a week or two to have someone with them while they were in the Philippines. By the way, I only had sex with foreigners. I usually had multiple partners at the same time just to make sure I had somewhere to go after one was gone. For those who might say I should just rent since I have a job, that was never an option because I got too used to that setup because I always got what I wanted. I got to live in luxurious condos around BGC, Eastwood, and Alabang. Money, and the lifestyle that was far from who I really was. So, back to Tim. Since New Year was approaching, he asked if I could celebrate at his place. He's from Laguna. Unfortunately, I immediately thought it was another opportunity to have a place to go because from the first time something happened between me and Tim, I was staying with a Chinese guy from Alabang. I stayed with him for a long time because he had a wife and a child. I was staying in one of his condos. I was his plaything. Fast forward, we celebrated together. He had his own house. I was even surprised because he introduced me to all his friends and even his family. I went along with it because at the back of my head, it wasn't serious. I thought I would only stay there for 2 days, but I ended up staying for 2 weeks. And of course, something was happening between us. Until my Chinese boyfriend started looking for me. Honestly, I liked Tim more because out of all the men I had been with, he was the only one I fell for. But I'm a fool, I was more drawn to money and luxury that I couldn't leave yet. So I juggled them again. But to tell you, aside from the two of them, there was another one, the older Israeli guy, from Eastwood. I also had no intention of letting him go because he was returning to the Philippines in March. So I had to go back to Alabang because he was wondering why I wasn't coming home. I remember returning to Alabang on January 23rd, and that's when I had sex again with my Chinese boyfriend because this Chinese boyfriend of mine 30 also had a Filipino wife. Honestly, I'm very careful about sex, and I always make sure to use protection or take pills. I'm very thankful I didn't get any STDs. But with Tim, even from our first sex, we didn't use protection. February 18th, I found out I was pregnant. And this time, I was confused about whether it was Tim's or the Chinese guy's. Since I had sex with the Chinese guy on January 23rd. From November to January 22nd, Tim was the only one I had sex with. I can say I was confused about who the father was since I had sex with Tim in November, but I found out I was pregnant in February. And Tim once mentioned to me that he thought he was infertile because all his past hookups ended in withdrawal. But at this time, he already knew I was pregnant. And of course, he was happy, but deep inside, I was doubting if he was really the father. That's it for now.